Welcome back to Mark Hulbut's Vlog, everyone. Thanks for joining in, and thanks for joining in on the saga, specifically of what's been going on. Obviously, if you guys joined in on the last week's vlog, we talked about what actually happened with a couple of our cars. We had a reckless driver decide to cross the lane in a residential school zone, playground zone, and took out two of our cars. The Porsche Boxster actually now officially has been written off, and now the Mercedes actually is also in the shop, and it's getting an assessment. We don't know exactly where that's going to head. Still stay tuned. But for now, we actually took possession of another car, and I want to talk today about my overall driving impressions. I actually took the time to do a proper review, which you're going to see on Exotic Car Place on my other channel. But more importantly, I just want to talk candidly about what this car is all about, since we've been driving this now for a couple of weeks, and I just can't help but really share my overall interpretation, and that is a Tesla Model 3. We actually have the extended range, and I know a lot of you guys hate electrified vehicles, the EVs, and you know, I too, in the same camp. I love the F-Type. It's absolutely impeccable. It's an amazing car, and still literally probably about as good a car as you're gonna get. But I do need to make some comparisons between the Tesla Model 3 here and the F-Type. The F-Type is nothing short of spectacular. It turns heads, it gets looks. Everybody loves an F-Type. It doesn't matter if you're a young kid, middle age, if you're an old person, everybody just loves them. They're unassuming, but yet they're aggressive and beautiful to look at. Absolutely lovely. But so what's my opinion with the F-Type compared to the Tesla Model 3 that we have parked right out here on the driveway? Well, let's talk about that. But first, before we go for a ride in the Tesla, we actually have to show you, yes, here we go, everybody. We actually have to unplug this, but this won't unplug because you actually have to release this from inside the car, and I'll show you how we do that right away. And then we leave this cable, it's all strung out here, tied to this 120 volt charger right here, and you're able to charge this car, and I'll explain how that all works too. Let's walk through what a day looks like driving the Tesla. So here you have to charge this, and so I'm going to unplug this charger. This is the 120 volt charger. Then what we have to do is, unfortunately, you can't just pull that out right now. So what we're going to do is I need to grab the cable, or I need to actually get that disconnected. So I use this fancy key. Go like this, you'll see that pops open. Now I gotta do this. Then I gotta jump in here, and down in here on the dash, you go open the trunk, and then you have to go here, disable that, and I'm gonna go charging, and then unlock the charging port. Now, what I'm gonna do is climb back out, and of course, okay, now what we gotta do, now this has been released. He drops down automatically. See, like that. Now, I just got to curl this up. I'm going to twist this up. This is what a day looks like owning this thing. So if you drive it, I find like if you're driving across town and back on a given day, you're going to eat up about close to 10% of the battery availability. And so what you're actually having to do is charge this on a daily basis if you want to keep this thing charged up. Because if you skip 2 or 3 days, all of a sudden you're finding yourself at 50%. And unless you have a supercharger available to you, then it becomes very difficult to recuperate all that charge, and the vehicle has to sit and charge for quite some time. So here I'm able to put that in here, put the charger in this fancy little bag right here. And of course it's called Tesla, like that. Beautiful. They also include another little funky charger. There's a few other options, but this is basically just a little holding bin here. And we'll close that up. Now we're gonna go for a ride, and I'll explain what in fact this car's like it all, like really what it's about, and how does it, you know, compare, in my opinion, to the F-Type. I love the F-Type, and I know a lot of you guys do too, but this is a very compelling conversation. So let's go for a ride. All right, so let's get into this rig. And of course you gotta have this key. It's gotta sit here somewhere in the middle. And of course I'm gonna turn off the music because that's just making a bunch of noise. So first things first, safety first, seat belts. And what's first quite interesting about this is you don't actually have to start anything up. It's a really odd, interesting, kind of a strange thing all together in one. And I'm basically put the foot on the brake, pull it down, and now we're in drive. So let's take a wheel. I'm gonna open the window, and you'll get a real sense of the fact that there's no noise coming out of this thing whatsoever. It's a really weird, really strange sensation. Okay, so the first thing I notice is there's no sound. The only sound you get is like road noise, tires. And I'm not gonna lie, there's days that it's actually kind of interesting to roll along and there's no noise. But with that said, the F-Type makes the best noise. So we're really talking about two of the most extreme situations. The car that makes some of the most intense sounds on the market today, and then a car that makes zero sound. So it's literally two sides of a coin, in my opinion, and everything else is somewhere in between. But we've spent now 2-3 weeks now with this car, and I really do have a sense of what living with this thing's all about. I did experience range anxiety. We were out ripping around. We spent the first few days, we didn't charge it, and then we thought we're gonna go find a place to charge, and we realized that there's actually not that many charging stations around. And what makes it even worse is because this is a rental, we rely on that 120 volt charger. You don't have, apparently, when you use the big aggressive charger, what they call the superchargers, you actually need I guess what I would say, you need some kind of an account, and I think it has to be pre-programmed, because when you plug in your charging cable on the supercharger, the car and the supercharger actually have to communicate, and they both have to agree that, hey, there's almost like a electronic handshake that goes on. And if the car is not approved, and if you don't know if you noticed, but this car is actually from BC, so they must have brought it in from the rental company, but there was no formal handshake. I tried to use the supercharger and it didn't want to communicate, so I couldn't get a supercharge going. But I did find another charger that's the 8-hour charger. You plug that in and it charges 8 hours, but you have to stand there for 8 blinking hours. So we were literally down to about 15%. We found the Tesla dealer here in the city, plugged in, we got the car up, we stood around for a couple of hours looking like a couple of yo-yos waiting to charge it up at least enough to get the car home. Then once we got the car home, then we plugged in this 120 volt charger. Of course, we had to wait a couple of days till it charged fully. So there's a lot of that waiting around, and unless you got the supercharger set up or even the 8-hour charger, you could find yourself sometimes looking and waiting and all of that game. So that's not a surprise to anybody. I don't think it's a surprise to me, and it probably wouldn't be a surprise to any of you guys that that's part of the game when you own these electric cars. The hope would be that eventually battery technology, charger technology becomes that much more aggressive, that maybe only wait for an hour, because the way it works out, the supercharger actually only takes about 35 minutes is what I'm told, but I couldn't confirm that because I never got the experience. However, all in all, the overall experience has been really good. Reliability has been pretty good. And again, this isn't necessarily a review. I'm just telling you my perspective and my personal experience driving this Tesla for 3 weeks now. And what I can tell you is I had one hiccup. The hiccup was every day you get in, you open the door, you get in, the center screen here, the center screen generally lights up once you get into the car. But there was a day where I got in, I unlocked the car like I did, I showed you. I got in, opened the door, closed the door, and the screen didn't light up. And I sat there like a dimwit, and I tried to I just basically tried to tap on the screen, and I tried opening and closing the door. Nothing was coming alive. Then what I had to do was I had to get back out, lock the car, unlock it again with the key, get back in, and then it worked. So I don't know, but it didn't just work right away. All of a sudden there was a Tesla logo on the center of the screen. It's almost like it was doing some kind of a reboot. So I don't know. It's the whole idea of all this new technology, electronics that are great when they're working, but you wonder how they're going to fail or stop working when you least expect it. I was in a place where it wasn't very convenient, and I had to get in the car, and the car didn't want to go, and there's nothing I can do. It's not like you can pop the trunk and then set off and away you go. You couldn't do that. There's nothing I could physically do. I had to just try a bunch of resets and things like that, and then it's almost like your cell phone. If it doesn't work, you got to turn it off, maybe pull out the battery. There's things that you can try, but other than that, there's nothing really that you can do. It's just, if it doesn't want to work, it doesn't want to work, and that's kind of what I experienced that one day. Other than that, fit and finish I found to be actually pretty good. I didn't see any significant issues other than a little piece of trim that I find over here on the dashboard, and you can see the piece of the trim that kind of lifts up over there, and the rest of it's nice and flat and flush. Other than that, the paint seems to be pretty good on this car. Door Panel gaps don't seem to be a real problem on this car, and overall interior feels pretty solid. So I don't really have any negatives to talk about that my personal experience from a quality control perspective. So far it's been great. And so one thing I will say, we've got the dual motor here. It's all-wheel drive. This is the performance with the long range, and performance is nothing short of spectacular. And that's the one thing I'll say, it doesn't leave you wanting for more. So we're cruising here mid-range, we're doing average speed. Whoa! Whoa. So as you can see, we literally left that guy for dead. We're cruising along, I step on the gas, or the electric throttle if you will, and we are gone instantly. Like, it's spectacular how quick this thing is. So I have to say, so the FType is fast. I've got the R 550 pony supercharged V8. It's fast, no doubt about it. Makes great sounds, it looks sexy, it's the car to have. But I'm not gonna lie, driving this Tesla, and it's so fast, at any second you could be doing 50k an hour, wham, hit it and it's gone. You could be doing any speed and you're gone instantly. It's ridiculous, it's brutal acceleration. You get in a little tight traffic, change direction, woof, and you're gone. I will honestly tell you, it almost ruins you. If I can say that, driving this car, sure you don't get the sounds and all of that, and you know, we can always argue about the looks of a Tesla. I don't personally think they're particularly great looking, any of them. I haven't seen a Tesla that looks great. The S isn't bad, but none of them are spectacular. But driving these Teslas, specifically, this is the performance, so the higher output versions, like this particular Model S or Model 3, it ruins you. It almost doesn't matter what you've driven. You got a Mustang GT, you got Camaro, you get this, you get that. It almost doesn't even matter what you drive, because you get behind the wheel of this and you've got thrust immediately. You could be doing 80k an hour on the highway and all of a sudden, wham, and you're doing 110, literally in a second and a half or two, it seems. It's nothing short of breathtaking. It actually ruins what your perception of fast really is. You think you have something quick and aggressive, and then you drive this and it's like, woof, it just goes and it blows your ideas of what quick and aggressive really is, because this is quick. Maybe not super aggressive, but it's so fast. I'm mind blown. Mind blown. I have no other words. Now, it doesn't mean I'm converted. This doesn't mean all of a sudden I'm selling the FType to buy a Tesla. On the contrary, really, driving around in the FType after the fact made me realize how much more I like the FType. And the FType can get that blistering acceleration, but you gotta have the revs up. You gotta be in the low gear to get that dig. And then you can get pretty comparable acceleration. But you've gotta be in the right gear. You gotta make the car work for it. Whereas this car, you don't have to work for it. You can be just like a ninny and just press the go button and it goes. There's nothing spectacular that you need to do. This car just gets up and goes instantly. So also, driving the FType after driving the Tesla, I realized the FType, you have to slide into the car. You sit lower in it. This car, you sit more upright. It's more like driving in a Honda. You know, there's nothing spectacular about your driving position in these cars. Whereas the FType, you sit low. You feel like that long, aggressive hood. You feel like you've got a powerful car. I also noticed, driving through construction zones, there's lots of it in my neighborhood these days. The FType continually turns heads. The Tesla is like every other car. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. It's nothing more than an appliance. The FType, the Tesla is really just an appliance. Appliance for speed. You know, it's an appliance for, you know, just to get up and go. The efficiency, so they say, you're not spending a lot of fuel on it. And, you know, interestingly enough, I will comment, speaking of fuel consumption, so we did find a spot to charge near our home. There's a mall where if you get a special little, you pay something like $30-40, then they give you this card, then allows you to use their chargers just outside the store. And we did that. We ended up talking to a local guy that had a Ford EV. His was actually some other little small car, essentially. It wasn't, I don't know, it doesn't even matter what it was. He was plugging his car in, he swiped his card to get us capability to charge up the Tesla, and we were talking, and he basically said he went from driving a Mitsubishi Eclipse, or no, it was a Lancer, because he did a lot of highway driving, and he said he was spending about $250, $300 a month on gas, and that's a small little 4-cylinder Econo shitbox, and it wasn't using much gas. And he all of a sudden went down to about $40, $50 a month on power consumption he was using to charge his cars for the same commute. So huge savings from that perspective. You know, it's the inconvenience, of course, but if you find the ways and you put in that 220 volt charger in your house, I think you find ways to manage the charging issues, and so that becomes less of an issue. With time, you just figure it out. Now clearly we're driving around, it's sunny, it's hot out today, it's 30 degrees Celsius. You know, we're in the 80s, probably mid 80s here, Fahrenheit. It's gorgeous, and it's been nice this whole time that we've had this Tesla. So it works well. But what would this really work like when it's minus 30? I mean, here in Edmonton, where we're from, it gets really cold. And battery life, we've heard, you know, you can lose half of your capacity just like that because of the cold weather. I am not able to confirm or deny what that looks like, but I will tell you that in the hot weather, this thing is good for, they say, about 500 kilometers. They say it's good for about 310 miles range on the extended battery on this car. Like I said, I can't confirm nor deny. I didn't do any formal numbers. I will say, you know, we're getting about 10% capacity used on a round trip across the city. So I'd say it's probably not too far from the truth. So it does great. It does very well in warm weather. So it's very economical from that perspective. So here we are again, just to show you another pass. Driving next to this minivan here, doing like next to nothing. Whoa! So just to show you in perspective, that just never gets old. And here's another quick perspective on how this thing will accelerate. Ridiculous. Nothing short of ridiculous. That's really all you can say about these cars. They actually go like there's a fire under their rear. Anyway, I just can't get enough of that. All I can say is it's a lot of fun, and it's a compelling conversation about, you know, Tesla versus whatever. I mean, they don't make the sounds, they don't have the looks, but you know, maybe eventually the electric cars will come around and start to have more appeal to them. I mean, Dodge now is creating that new Challenger Charger that makes that simulated exhaust sound. Yes, I know, I laugh too. That's kind of a joke. Personally, there's nothing like an original Hellcat or Demon. If you want that noise, that's the real sound. And I think simulating that is just cheese, pure cheese. It's almost like double cheese with extra cheese on the pizza. Yeah, I mean, BMW was doing that with injecting fake engine sounds in their speakers for years. Cheesy. Either it makes a sound or it doesn't. No point in faking the noise. At least Tesla is not trying to fake that. But again, long and short of it, do I exchange an F-Type for a Tesla? Sorry guys, I love the F-Type. Probably not going to happen at this time. Tesla is a lot of fun, but I'll also be equally happy to give it back and get back into the F-Type. All right, everyone, and yes, that's my summary of 3 weeks now living long-term here, more or less, with the Tesla Model 3. It's been a blast. There's still just that missing element. Standing around looking like a clown, waiting for 8 hours to charge too, is still not all the greatest thing. But I can see why some people, you know, depending on their lifestyle, would maybe opt for this. So either way, love to hear your comments below, guys. I'd love to hear it, each and every one of you. Please drop a line, and more importantly, please do subscribe to the channel. It's living the car dream. That's what it's all about. Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. Catch you real soon. Bye-bye.